Okay, what's up everyone? So today I just wanted to show you how I've started using AI, specifically coding agents, to trip plan. I'm using it alongside Obsidian, and I'm building myself these interactive maps that allow you to see, kind of visualize the trip, as well as building out ticket prices. So I'm able to generate literally like this Google Flights ticket price and query and find the cheapest tickets particular to kind of the dates and the queries that I'm providing it. And so this is using a handful of tools, and so the goal of this video is going to be walking you through basically exactly how I generated this note and how I plan on using this in future trips as well. I think it's very powerful. It's very good at answering questions like, given these general time frame and budget, it's just very flexible, right? I can give it a query, something of the nature of I just want to find the absolute cheapest tickets. Just get me there within this time frame. I have this much flex. Find me the cheapest tickets, or find me the most comfortable tickets. All of these things are possible. And now the way we get the data is actually using this thing called SerpApi. SerpApi, I believe they're actually getting sued by Google. Essentially what SerpApi does is they are doing to Google what Google does to the web. So if you're not familiar, Google creates search by scraping the web, indexing it, and then providing relevant links. Now SerpApi is scraping Google, and they're providing Google's data. So for me personally, I use Google Flights. Google Flights is an excellent interface, at least until today, that has provided me and many years of great cheap tickets, right? But now we can use it, Google Flights, with our coding agent. And the way I'm doing that is you're actually going to want to create a SerpApi account. It should be clear there are alternatives to SerpApi. SerpApi just has a good free tier, and so it's good for this tutorial. I do plan on exploring this further with alternative services. But anyways, you're going to want to create an account, and you're going to get this API key here. Don't you worry, I will rotate this, so don't plan on using it. And then you're going to want to go to this SerpApi CLI. I'm actually going to start this. So the CLI is your command line interface. So if you look through here, you're going to just install it. This is how I personally installed it. And then you're going to do a SerpApi login. And this will say, enter your API key. In this case, you go back here to SerpApi's docs, grab your API key, plug it in. Now you'll see that you're logged in, right? What this allows you is now you can see, let's do this. Let's do a search, SerpApi search engine, Google question coffee. And basically what this is doing is it's probably the exact same as if I went to literally google.com and I said coffee, right? I'm not actually going to explore this much further, but that's essentially what's happening here. So it's powerful. Basically what we can do now is query Google and all of its services from our command line, which our AI loves, right? Because our AI is working within our command line, this is the ideal interface. Okay, and now that we have the SerpApi installed, we can actually just query it. Let's just say I'm going on a surf trip sometime this summer, somewhere in the world. I want to find waves that are ideally right and probably, let's say, 4 to 8 foot. Ideally, you can find me round-trip tickets for less than $1,000 flying out of Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, and I'm happy to go anytime from, let's say, June to August, so I'm flexible with dates. So we're going to want to actually add this here, use SerpApi CLI to query flights. That's just so that our agent knows to use SerpApi rather than like a default Google search or web search. Uh-oh. It's querying for Spirit Airlines. Sorry, AI. Bad news. Okay, and just like that, it has found us 2 recommendations, or it's actually found us 5 potential picks, with 2 of the main ones being Salina Cruz in Mexico, as well as in El Salvador. So these are, it looks like it went with 9-day trips. What is this? 8-day trips. And here's like potential budgets. So these are like $600 surf trips. Sweet, let's do it. Okay, so that's the first step, right? We now have these surf trips packaged into our AI. Next thing I want to do now is pull this into my Obsidian Vault, right? So I created an Obsidian Vault here. I just called it trip planning. And if you see, it's actually here within the directory I'm working in. I have this Obsidian tutorials. So now I'm going to just say, let's expand on each of these trips in parallel. Write them into individual markdown files within trip planning directory. But before I actually do that, I want to bring in the maps. So remember when I originally showed you, I had this maps, right? So this is kind of a part of the trip planning that I enjoy. This relies on an Obsidian plugin that I created called ISO.me maps. So this was born out of like the original idea. I have an ISO.me iOS app. And so this was kind of a way of tracking myself, generating data, and then putting it into my Obsidian Vault. But I realized AI is actually really... So this is the plugin I'm going to be using, but it's not on the official Obsidian community plugin store yet. So what you actually need to use is something called BRAT. So BRAT is the beta reviewers auto update tool for Obsidian. So this, I believe, is kind of like the official method of getting these non-community approved plugins onto your Obsidian Vault. And so that's what we're going to be using here. So you're going to go to your settings, community plugins, browse, and we're going to just say BRAT. Great. Enable. And now we're going to add a beta plugin. So this is how you add a plugin. It's based off of the releases here. So first things first, let's grab the URL, plug it in here. And now you can see each individual release. So I've been playing around with this for a while. We'll just go with the latest release here, just so it auto updates. Click add plugin. Okay, now we have ISO.me maps. We're going to place our exports into a dedicated exports folder. And now let's go ahead and do exports here. Now, I have this particular prompt that I was working with. Let's expand each of these trips in parallel, write them into individual markdown files. Then I want you to generate data within the exports directory. We can use JSON here. And this data is going to work alongside our ISO.me maps plugin to render maps that we can then visualize our trips on. In this case, it probably doesn't know ISO.me, so I'm actually going to just give it an example. So I'm going to just grab this and say, use this file as an example to understand the data structure needed to use these maps. Plug in the URL. And then I also want to provide, here are the docs for the plugin. Okay, so again, that's kind of a long prompt, but Okay, so this is doing a number of things, and so let me explain it to you. Basically, I asked it to do it in parallel. So I have a subagent called parallel or pi subagents, or extension called pi subagents. And so the goal here is because we're dealing with multiple potential trips, right? It listed out 5. I actually want to spawn 5 agents that are each individual writing their own markdown files. So you can see here, if you're watching the thinking and the thought process of this LLM, before it spawns the subagents, it's actually recognizing like the data structures, it's seeing the map plugin, the functionality and the documentation of it. And when we go through here, it's even looking at the example data structure. Great. And so now, if we're lucky, it's actually going to now spawn subagents that are then going to write each of these files as needed, and then also generate the data structure, the data to visualize it, and if we're lucky, put that map into the actual like trip planning markdown file for each particular trip. Okay, so we are finished with that step, and as you can see here, we actually have all of our points mapped out. So something that's interesting here is this is not only showing the destination, but it's also showing the flight maps, right? So let's say I wanted to go to Nicaragua. This would be the flights, right? I would be going to Miami, looks like Panama, Nicaragua. So let's just go ahead and look at Costa Rica, right? We get a good snapshot. This is the cheapest option. There's a couple cool parts of the plan, you know, showing the plan, the budget, things of that nature. What it's missing that I actually want, and I believe it's missing on all of these, is it's missing the actual flight link. So let's just say generate the real flight links via Google Flights so I can purchase these. So I actually need to explicitly tell my agent like, hey, like generate the flight links. Oh, I should probably say put the links into their related markdown files. So again, I just kind of want each of these to have the links so I can see like, is this true? Right? Does it actually cost this much? Okay, so it looks like it has generated the links, and so this is something that I think is interesting and worth like discussing, and part of why AI is so good at this versus the manual linking. So in this case, we have 3 links, and these are actually it's calling them split ticket fare snapshots. So here it's doing Aguadilla to Orlando, Florida, and then Orlando, Florida to Salvador. And then it actually has straight Aguadilla to Salvador. So if you see here, we have Aguadilla to Orlando round trip is $301. And then we have Orlando to Salvador, and it's $375, right? And we can even match the flights. So this is 5 a.m. and then 3:25 p.m. So it would work. But if we do straight Aguadilla to Salvador, it's $1,400. So something about the Google Flights algorithm, yes, we can hit cheapest for 908, but that's still like a couple hundred more dollars than just the split ticket adjustment. So again, this is part of the benefit of doing this. AI is able to wiggle through the cracks and find these, right? How often do you actually look for the individual stops versus just the round trip? So that's pretty sweet. One last thing I want to do, because this is surf trip planning, is I want to see photos of the waves. Can you now do image search and provide me with 3 images of each of the locations, specifically the surf spots that you're recommending? Place these in the markdown files themselves so I can view them. So I'm going to just send this off and see if if we can, I imagine SerpApi provides image search or fetching as well. Okay, and just like that, we now have images. So this is, so it's pretty cool actually. I didn't realize that, but these were actually talking about multiple spots, right? So this is, it looks like these are the two waves, Punta Roca and Surf City. And if we click in, oh, I'm sure there's a better way to view this, but I can see over here, this is particular Punta Roca, which looks like an epic right-hand point. You know, cool little town, Sunsal, K59. I imagine these are all different waves within these locations. So now I can click through and just kind of get a better idea of what the wave actually looks like. That's about as far as I'm gonna go. I think additional queries I might check are like temperature, right? That should have been a part of my initial prompt. Is like, I don't want to be wearing a wetsuit. Fortunately, it looks like a lot of these spots seem pretty warm. I'm not seeing any wetsuits. So yeah, so anyways, so this is how I do my trip planning now. As you can see, it's pretty sweet, right? I can just provide a budget, general time of year, and then it just produces flights, images, you name it. So now I have like 5 epic potential surf trips that I can explore and play around with. Am I gonna go on them? Fortunately, probably not this summer. But this is, I do see like, this is probably how I'm gonna be planning trips in the future. Sorry, scratch that. This is definitely how I plan trips in the future and just kind of moving forward. Hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something today, and let me know if you go on any cool trips using this technique. I think it's pretty sweet. Take care.